begin with Pope Francis in America.
In just about 10 hours, leader of the Catholic Church will touch down on American soil for the very first time.
The pontiff will wrap up his visit to Cuba this morning before heading to Washington, D.C.
And that's where we find Danielle North this morning. She is covering this historic visit. Good morning, Danielle.
Well, good morning to you, Pat and Susan. Yes, we arrived at the airport in Baltimore last night, checking into kind of an unexpectedly quiet and empty hotel. We were told by the staff there that today really is the day that all of that's going to change. You're going to start to see youth groups and church organizations arriving here for the pontiff's visit today. And as you mentioned, the Pope will be arriving here this afternoon at 4 o'clock. He'll be taking a flight from Cuba. He does have one more appearance in Cuba before he arrives in the States. And what we're talking about right now, these hours are really the last hours before we start to see the city change and we see the population explode by hundreds of thousands more people here in our nation's capital. Even at this early hour, we were out and about checking out some of the busier locations in D.C. We checked out, went by some of the historic monuments as well. And you can see some of the preparations already in place. Some road barricades are out there. We did see some of the Vatican flags flying along Constitution Avenue. But again, you're really going to start to see the crowd start to arrive later today. The vendors will be setting up, and you'll really begin to see the streets filled with people. And Pope Francis himself has quite the jam-packed schedule while he's here. Let's take a look at what he has planned. After his arrival today, he starts things off bright and early tomorrow morning with a visit to the White House first. He'll be then conducting a short papal parade along the National Mall, midday prayer with the U.S. bishops, and he'll be celebrating Mass at the National Shrine at 4:15. We're expecting a crowd of at least 25,000 for that event. Then Thursday, his all-important and much-anticipated address before Congress, a visit to St. Patrick's, and then he'll be departing for New York. Now, coming up this morning at 6:30, this is truly being called one of the biggest security efforts in U.S. history for the pontiff's visit here in the United States. We'll have much more on that coming up in our next half hour. For now, we're live in Washington, D.C. I'm Danielle North. Back to you.
And our in-depth coverage of Pope Francis in America continues. We've been bringing you stories all week ahead of the Pope's first ever trip to the U.S. You can watch all those stories right now on our website, WPRI.com.